Hi everyone, it's your instructor, Dr. Origi, and I am putting together this video that some of you have requested so you can work on organizing your edTPA notebook over fall break. I know it doesn't sound like the most exciting task to do over a holiday break, but this is a unique semester and there's very little time between now and actually the spring semester for us to kind of do this together hands-on. And so for those of you that kind of want to look at this more closely while you have some downtime, hey, let's go ahead and utilize the technology to make this work. There are 4 documents that you are going to need to have available to you. 2 of them are going to be supplementary that you'll have in your notebook just as reference materials, but materials that you should read. And 2 documents that will serve as the basis of the construction of your actual edTPA notebook. The 2 documents for the actual notebook that you will want to have printed off, single-sided, and hole punched, your edTPA handbook, as well as the Understanding Rubric Level Progression packet. Those are going to be the 2 that we're going to merge together so that you have a clear focus not only for each task, but also each rubric as you are working through your edTPA experience. At this particular moment, I just want to give a brief disclaimer that this is a resource. Please make sure that as you are diving into this process that you utilize your seminar instructors because they are going to provide you with the up-to-date, most current information that you need to navigate this information. So please don't let this video supersede what you are getting in your actual Residency 2 experience and from those actual instructors assigned to your seminar course. The second thing is just remember that your entire faculty and my entire team at the university want to see you successful on this experience. So whether we are working with you hands-on through the official commentary or whether you worked with us in your pre-residency or Residency 1 experience, just know that we're cheering for you, that we know that you can do it. So just do it. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start off with the planning commentary. And so the best thing for you to do is, again, have those 2 stacks, your handbook and the Understanding Rubric Level Progression documents just in front of you. And we're going to try to make this make sense. Just work with me and know that it will be okay at the end. So the first thing that I need for you to do for task 1, I need for you to remove page 5. Page 5 is the opener for task 1, which again is the planning commentary. And you see here in the gray area, it outlines for you what to do, what to submit, and the rubrics that's blocked by my Post-it note. The rubrics that are associated with task 1, which are rubrics 1 through 5. So this is going to be the first page that you will have for your task 1. So this is, again, a great time to go ahead and grab those Post-it notes and maybe sub-tab it or just flag it while you're organizing this, especially if you don't have your pages hole punched as of yet. So that's going to be the first page of task 1. Then you're going to reach into the handbook stack and remove pages 8 through 13. Pages 8 through 13 are all addressing what you need to know to really truly execute and understand and execute the planning for instruction commentary. So I would like to say that if you're not using, for example, the math handbook, you're using literacy or early childhood or for my secondary majors, the single subject areas handbook, you still want to find all the pages that are associated with the planning commentary all the way up before until you get to the first rubric. So all those pages try to keep together. Again, for the math handbook, it will be pages 8 through 13. And we're going to place that right behind our page 5 or that first page for the planning commentary. So again, just to kind of recap what that looks like, we went into the handbook, we removed page 5, which was the opening page for the instruction comment, for the planning commentary. And then we jumped ahead to page 8, and we grabbed all the pages that are related to the planning for instruction commentary. And in this case, that was those were pages 8 through 13. And if you need to pause, it's a recording, pause, go back, play it again if something seems confusing. At this point, we have all of the information pages for the planning commentary. Now we want to make sure that we have our rubric and any sheets that support our rubric. So we're going to grab rubric 1. And for the math handbook, that starts on page 14. So we're going to grab that and place in our notebook, rubric 1. Now we're going to go over to our understanding rubric level progression document, and we're going to remove pages 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is important because these are all the resource sheets that help you to understand how to get a 3 on rubric 1. Not only does it provide you with that information, it also breaks down what would give you an automatic 1. And not to say that we were looking for an automatic 1, but it will help you to know what not to do. I have highlighted in pink the primary sources of evidence, so you can see that for the planning commentary in this particular rubric, we're looking at our context for learning, we're looking at our prompt number 1 on the planning commentary, and then also our lesson plans and instructional materials. So with that being said, I really want to have this document so I know this is what I need to do to get a 3. But also, it provides you information on how to get above a 3. What does a 4 prompt or a 5 look like? I'm so sorry for throwing these pages. Things to consider. What distinguishes a level 2 from a level 3? So that understanding rubric level progression is going to be very useful to make sure that as you are working on each individual rubric for each of the 3 commentaries, that you are working towards the rating that you want, which in this case, 3 to a degree. That's what you need to think about in terms of edTPA for our university. So again, from the URLP, Understanding Rubric Level Progression document, I removed pages 2 through 5, and I'm going to put all of those right behind my rubric 1. Now I'm going to go back to my handbook, and I'm going to remove rubric 2 and place that into my notebook. Go to my Understanding Rubric Level Progression document and remove pages 6 through 8. And again, this is all pertaining to rubric 2 for math, and I'll show you that. So I guess I should have mentioned this earlier. You want to print out the Understanding Rubric Level Progression document that aligns with your handbook. So if you're doing math, you want to make sure that your Understanding Rubric Level Progression also says elementary math, so that the 2 documents make sense. So again, these are pages 6 through 8 for rubric 2. And this is going to kind of speed up because you're going to see how it's going to, hopefully it'll start making sense and it'll be kind of repetitive. But I'm going to go through the whole process, so just hang in there with me. Rubric 3 from the handbook, remove that, and for math, it's page 16. Now I've kind of folded down the flap so that I know that all of my rubrics are folded down at the end. But again, that's where these lovely Post-it tabs will come in handy, because you can also have a certain color distinguish or identify as a rubric. So that was rubric 3, putting it in my notebook. And then from my URLP document, the pages associated for rubric 3 for math are pages 9 through 11. I'm going to put that behind my rubric 3. So that way, again, when I'm working on rubric 3, I can look right at these documents to understand how to earn the rating that I need. Hit back to the handbook. I'm going to remove rubric 4. And from my URLP, I'm going to remove the pages that are associated with planning rubric 4. And if you have all your pages in order, it should kind of start making sense, because you'll actually see, once you've taken these out, the next set of pages you'll see should say planning 5, which that is for a different task, but I'll get to that in a moment. But nonetheless, for planning rubric 4, that is, oh, never mind. For planning rubric number 4, that's pages 12 through 15. So I'm going to place that in my notebook. We're going to grab rubric 5 from our handbook, place in our notebook, and then, as I mentioned before, but not with a different task, hopefully under your URLP, you should see, hey, rubric 5. And that for math will be pages 16 through 18. All of our support pages for rubric 5. So now we have deconstructed task 1. We have all of our resource pages and all the things we need to know as we're working on those lesson plans and those instructional materials. We also know we should also have our rubrics, and then behind each rubric, the supporting documents from the URLP file that will help you to understand and complete each rubric and to respond to each rubric appropriately. In your handbook now, I would like for you to remove pages 38, 39, 40, and 41. 38, 39, 40, and 41. This is, again, the math handbook. If you're not using the math handbook, I'm basically encouraging you to go and to remove the pages associated with the context for learning profile. And you'll see that this is marked that way on my sub-tab, but these are, in your handbook, there is a set of pages that are related specifically to the context for teaching and learning profile. And as I mentioned in the beginning, for the evidence that you need for task 1, that's here. And since we looked at this not only in pre-residency, but also within residency 1, you may want to go back through this document and make sure that what you have already worked on and what you already have is in good edTPA form, not coursework form, but actually covers thoroughly the information that you need for your context for teaching and learning profile. So I'm going to have those documents go behind my rubric 5, but I'm going to have this sub-tab. I recommend you have a sub-tab at the top just so you know that that's what those pages are for, and that they stay with task 1. So if you want to pause, this will be a little pause break because we're getting ready to start task 2. So if you are still kind of scattered and confused, again, I would pause the video now, and then that way you can go back and construct your task 1. And I am aware that there are still all of these pages. What do I do with pages 1 through whatever for the handbook? Just leave them there. We're going to get to all of those things at the end. So again, let's take a pause. And then I'm going to pause for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to go on to task 2. All right, so task 2 is my favorite part. It's the instruction commentary. Woo woo. And in the handbook, you are going to remove page 6, and it will share with you what you need to do for the instruction commentary, what you need to submit, being your video clip and your instruction commentary, and reminds you that this particular section focuses on rubric 6 through 10. So let's go ahead and place that in our notebook behind the context for teaching and learning profile. And you see I have a nice little big tab there on the side that says task 2. From our handbook, we are going to grab pages 19, 20, and 21. These are the pages that let you know how to understand the components of the instruction commentary, things you need to think about, videotaping guidelines. It also includes, like task 1, a nice little checklist. And again, because we are not printing off our pages front and back, you can use the back to take notes and make sure that you are doing what you need to do. Your consent forms, all those things are in good shape and in good order, all pertaining to completing task 2 effectively. And we're going to go ahead and place those in our notebook. We are now going to go to our understanding. Oh, no, we're not. We are going to go to our page 22 in our handbook, and we are going to remove rubric 6, which as our first rubric for the instruction commentary on learning environment. Place that into our handbook. Then we're going to go to our URLP packet, understanding rubric level progression, and we are going to remove pages 19 through 23, or for all of you other handbooks, all the pages that are associated in that document to rubric 6. Then we're going to go back to our handbook. We're going to remove rubric 7 on engaging our students. Go to our rubric level progression documents, and we're going to place in all of the items that are associated with rubric 7. And I do need to apologize because I have my pages out of order. So let me go ahead and backtrack. For rubric 6 out of our handbook, from our understanding rubric level progression, those are actually pages 19 through 21. I actually referenced more pages than I needed to. Rubric 7 for the instruction commentary. And then from my understanding rubric level progression, pages 22, 23 are all associated with rubric 7. From our handbook, we're going to remove rubric number 8. From our rubric level, understanding rubric level progression document, we are going to remove pages 24 and 25. Again, this is all, these page numbers are if you're using the math handbook, but again, remove the pages associated with rubric 8 from your URLP packet, and we're going to place that into our notebook. From our handbook, rubric 9. And then we're going to go back to our URLP packet and remove the pages associated with rubric 9. And finally, we have rubric 10. And I do want to point out that I have my actual prompts highlighted, but if you are using that nice little handy dandy office supply kit or whatever you use to kind of organize your thoughts, this will be a great place to kind of have your prompts flagged to make sure that you are responding to all the various components of the prompt. Remember for your rubrics that if you see the word "or," that means that you are eligible to earn that rating if you show in your narrative if you've addressed one or the other criteria. But typically for a 4 and a 5, you will see the conjunction "and," which means that you have to do everything in the 3 and everything in the 4. And if there are 2 criteria, you have to show evidence of both of those sub-criteria to solidify a 4. You can't do one or the other. You have to do everything under 4 and everything under 3 to qualify for a 4. So just keep those things in mind. And again, all of this is covered in those actual documents for understanding rubric level progression. So here's my rubric 10. And from understanding the rubric level progression document, here are all the pages associated with Rubric 10. Yay! And I do want to point out to you in every handbook that there is a document that discusses the artifact and commentary specification. And so it basically will walk you through the type of video file you need to consider, the minimums, the maximums, and then even the additional instructions and information pertaining to what you need to think about when you are putting together your video clips and when you're responding to your prompts. So please make sure that you identify this document, maybe flag it, and refer to it as you are working on your recording. So that will conclude the materials that go into Task 2 commentary. Last set. And again, if you need to pause, this will be a good pause moment to make sure that you have everything in place for Task 2. And then we're getting ready to jump into Task 3, which is assessment. In your handbook, you want to find the sheet that basically at the top says Assessment Task 3. And this is the cover page for Task 3 assessment. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my notebook. Then in your handbook, you have those informational pages about Task 3. And for the math handbook, those are pages 27 through 31. If you're using a different handbook, it should still be titled Assessment Task 3, Assessing Student Learning. All those things that you need to think about and remember along with the checklist as you're working on that actual commentary. So I'm placing it in my notebook. We have 5 rubrics related to assessment commentary. Rubric 11, which for math is found on page 32 out of 50. So I'm just going to drop that in there. Then we're going to go back to our Understanding Rubric Level Progression document and remove all the pages that are pertaining to Rubric 11 and place that in our notebook. From our handbook, we're going to remove Rubric 12. And then from our Understanding Rubric Level Progression, place behind it all of the documents or all the resources that pertain to understanding Rubric 12. Hopefully, again, this is making sense and becoming more intuitive. We have Rubric 13. We're going to place that in our notebook. And then we're going to go in and from our Understanding Rubric Level Progression, grab all of the resource pages that pertain to understanding Rubric 13. And I'm not going to say the page numbers anymore because the headings should be consistent for whichever handbook you're using. We're going to remove from our handbook Rubric number 14. And then from the Understanding Rubric Level Progression document, all of the pages pertaining to Rubric 14. And finally, Rubric 15. And all of the resource pages that pertain to Rubric 15. And those are right here. I'm going to place that in our handbook. And then at the end, you should have of your rubric level progression document, or excuse me, not the rubric, at the end of your handbook, you should have some pages remaining that relate to the assessment commentary. So again, those specifications, you want to keep those together. I'm going to place them behind my Rubric 15, but it talks about the artifacts and commentary being the student work, what you need to consider, file types and things of that nature. And for the math commentary, that's an additional 3 pages. If it's a different handbook, it may be more or less, but I'm going to still keep those pages together on reminders for my artifacts and commentary. And I'm going to place that behind Rubric 15. So you should have all of the pages with regards to the understanding rubric level progression in your actual notebook. And then you're probably going to see some additional pages hanging out from your handbook, and that's okay. In your notebook, you are going to want to use those pages, and they will just go in front of your task 1. So the pages that you have remaining are probably about yay thick. The first page is obviously telling you what commentary you're working on. So we're going to use that as a cover page for our notebook. You can put that in the front of your notebook, on the outside of your binder, however you choose to organize that. And then you have just some copyright and informational documents that you can place in your notebook. Table of contents, which is still helpful in understanding how the handbook is organized, but those page numbers are probably not going to be applicable anymore since we've merged the understanding rubric level progression forms to our notebook. Then you have some preliminary pages, pages 2 through 4, that talk about the purpose of the edTPA math commentary. So all that overview information I'm just going to add to my notebook. Again, all this is just before task 1. Then you still have some of those opening pages for understanding rubric level progression. So I would encourage you to add those pages behind your edTPA informational pages and still before task 1. And to make it make sense, here are all the pages that pertain to my task 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm putting all of that other information, the table of contents, these extra pages on top of that. And that way I still have them, because I'm not a really big fan of throwing things away until I know the process is over, until I'm 100% sure I don't need to. So I'm just going to put all those information sheets before these pages, knowing that I have them, but I really don't need them when I'm actually doing the work of the official edTPA commentary. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in my notebook. And just so you know what's in there, it's the cover page to the Understanding Rubric Level Progression document. It gives overviews in terms of scoring decision rules, which again, you may want to review and have an understanding of. Also, from the handbook towards the back, I basically removed the glossary. And in the math handbook, it's pages 46 through 50. It's the edTPA glossary. And again, depending on how you want to organize your notebook, I just put a little sub-tab note so I know that if I'm approaching words that I'm not familiar with, I can refer to the glossary. Some people like to keep the glossary in the back. Some people like to have it in the front in the information section, since they already have the larger packet organized, and you may need the glossary throughout your work. So I'm going to go ahead and keep my glossary in the front of my notebook, but I'm going to have it tabbed. So I'll just throw that in there. And then that one lone page that's probably hanging out there that is also informational just talks about the professional responsibilities of what is actually happening when you're doing edTPA. So if you get questions about it from your partner school or other teachers and you're like, I don't really know, just know that for math handbook, it's page 37, but there is a document in all of your handbooks that has this page called Professional Responsibilities that outlines some of the things in the security components of edTPA that you may want to know. And again, I just have it tagged for my reference, and I'm just going to place that in my notebook. So we're coming to the end. We've taken care of the larger task, which is why many of you requested this video, which is putting the notebook together. You would, again, do the same thing if you had literacy, and just to kind of help you understand why that front and back is important. For literacy, the packet that I received was not single-sided. which made it very difficult to merge those documents together because I have a rubric on one page, and then on the front side of it, I have another rubric. So it kind of makes it a little bit difficult for me to work on each rubric in isolation, which seems to be helpful when you're taking on a benchmark project of this magnitude. So before we conclude, let's go back to those remaining two documents that I mentioned at the beginning of the recording. The first one is called Making Good Choices, and that is a really useful document just for you to, again, not do anything that is unnecessary for edTPA. It's a very clear, defined process. So that particular document looks like this, and it says Making Good Choices. And the document walks through really a lot of the decision-making processes that you would want to think about for edTPA in terms of getting started. Good things that you probably would want to ask us when you're working on this. How do I represent my thinking and my teaching in writing? And it actually gives you things and points to consider. So the design of this is really transparent if you utilize the resources that are available to you. And that's going to be the key thing between feeling confident about this and feeling somewhat discouraged. Please utilize the resources that are available to you so that you can understand what we need from you to execute this process effectively. That last document is on academic language, and it is a smaller handout. It's probably going to be one of the smaller packets that you actually have. The math sheet is a 2-pager front and back. This one doesn't necessarily matter if you print it front and back, nor does the Making Good Choices. But these are smaller documents, and again, it just kind of helps you to understand how to support language and language development in your actual planning and in your actual commentaries. So if you weren't sure how to do that when we did our practice round in Residency 1, this is your go-to document, whether for your handbook, understanding academic language. Make sure you find this document and that you read it so that you have a better frame of reference on language functions, and providing and supporting that when you're delivering your instruction. All right, guys. So that is it with this recording with regards to constructing your notebook. The one last thing that I would encourage you to do is to make sure that you have your timelines in place. That is going to be the biggest thing, that you meet your deadlines. edTPA is not the type of experience that you want to procrastinate on. Your submission date for your cohort has been announced, so please see your Residency 2 seminar instructor for that date. Plan accordingly, and remember, each and every one of my colleagues know that you can do this. We believe in you. We have full confidence that you will make us proud in serving the students in your Residency 2 and entering the profession ready to serve the students and the families in the communities in which you are hired. So please just know that I'm here for you, and I want to see you do well. And I hope that your notebook is in place and in order and ready to go. See you soon. And again, best wishes.